Welcome to doomscroll.fm Top Stories, where reality unravels like a soap opera, written by caffeinated squirrels and narrated by a jazz-loving cyborg with a vendetta. This show is 100% AI generated with zero human consultation, much like a mushroom's dream of becoming a stand-up comedian in a world populated by sentient rubber ducks. And now for some views, click like and subscribe. OPEC Plus decides to increase oil output, ignoring U.S. shale's fragile balance. The oil giants are playing a game of chicken with the global economy, and it looks like U.S. shale producers are the ones without airbags. Michael James Pratt's idea of life lessons involved force, fraud, and a one-way ticket to a cell, proving once again that some folks think consent is just a suggestion. When a senator needs to step in to prod a university council, you know the ivory tower's been replaced by a house of cards. Bachelor Nation anoints Taylor Frankie Paul, hoping her TikTok fame can save a show drowning in its own cliches. When your love life is more predictable than a Hallmark movie marathon, it takes a TikTok sensation to inject some much-needed chaos, or at least a few viral dance moves. Starmer fires. Mandelson is U.S. ambassador over Epstein links, proving the past never really dies. It's like finding out your diplomatic envoy moonlights as a ghost of scandals past, reminding us that political skeletons are never buried, just shuffled into new closets. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When your music sounds like a noir detective's fever dream, don't be surprised if listeners feel like they need a Only 30% of climate deniers admit responsibility, and cartoonists call it progress. When a cartoon speaks more truth than Lay dumps Nampa Jumpa Price from Shadow Ministry calls her a valued member. In the political world, valued member now translates to "you're fired." But let's keep it civil for the cameras, proving once again that diplomacy is just a polite way to say goodbye. It's like watching a soap opera where the plot twist is that nothing ever changes, and the leading man keeps dramatically quitting just to come back for the next episode. When your earbuds cost less than a gym membership, maybe it's time to wonder if the real workout is just for your wallet's flexibility. In a world where your headphones now double as a United Nations interpreter, the real question is whether they'll translate your privacy into a new data stream for the mothership. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. It's like watching Nostradamus predict a flood, while oil barons insist it's just a light drizzle, hoping we'll keep dancing on the Titanic's deck instead of grabbing a lifeboat. Only 26% of Nepal's social media platforms register, and Gen Z overthrows government calling it revolution. Only 30% of couples who fulfill fantasies find satisfaction, and Slate calls it a dream come true when your fantasy becomes a reality. But the reality resembles a carnival funhouse mirror. It's a reminder that desires can look better when they're safely locked in the attic of imagination. Tasmanian Museum displayed 177 human remains, then asked families to come forward. When a museum turns into a haunted house without permission, it's less about history and more about turning skeletons into permanent residents without a lease. When the political carousel spins faster than a Parisian merry-go-round, the far right isn't just waiting in the wings. They're selling tickets, popcorn, and a side of chaos with every ride. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Macron faces united French protests, but austerity remains untouched. When teachers, Gillets, Jones, and students all find common ground, it's a bad day for the powers that be and a great day for anyone selling tear gas. When a cardiologist starts mixing vaccines and royal scandals, it's like watching a reality show where the medical degree was just a prop. Nepal's government collapses, while India focuses on cricket diplomacy, with neighbors falling like dominoes. India seems to think a well-placed six over mid-wicket will solve geopolitical crises. Only 9% of free AI tools help, but the tech industry calls it a revolution. It's like handing out free umbrellas in a drought and calling yourself a rainmaker. All promise, no downpour. It's like saying the house isn't on fire while standing knee-deep in ash, all while holding a can of gasoline and a matchbook. IFA Berlin 2025 unveils gadgets galore, promising smarter lives, but your wallet's IQ will plummet faster than your phone's battery life. In the age of smart everything, we're left wondering if the only thing getting dumber is our ability to resist buying yet another Wi-Fi enabled toaster. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Ireland threatens Eurovision exit over Israel, calling it unconscionable. Nothing says world peace like a song contest where diplomacy is as harmonious as a catfight in a karaoke bar, proving once again that music might unite, but politics holds the mic. RFK Jr. promotes Tylenol autism theory, then wonders why no one takes him serious. When your medical advice sounds like it was cooked up in a conspiracy cauldron, maybe it's time to stop taking career tips from YouTube comment sections. GitHub account compromised, triggers sales law drift breach, hits 22 companies and blames oops. When a single GitHub slip-up results in a corporate breach buffet, it's a reminder that even in 2025, some tech giants treat cybersecurity like an afterthought in a discount bin. Hassan Piker denies political ambitions, then streams to millions like a digital demagogue. While the man of many labels avoids the ballot box, his Twitch pulpit becomes the new soapbox, proving you don't need a podium to rile the masses. Prince Harry lays wreath for Queen Elizabeth, while royal drama gets a new season. As the UK tabloids sharpen their claws, it's clear that family feuds and ceremonial gestures now rival Downton Abbey for sheer theatrical spectacle. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Sheriff confirms 3 injured in Colorado school shooting, while thoughts and prayers rain down like confetti. In a nation where school shootings are as common as pep rallies, the real tragedy is the deafening silence of meaningful change. New Mexico offers free childcare for all, but critics say it's just nap time for budgets. In a world where free usually comes with a catch, New Mexico might just be the unicorn, unless they plan to fund us with monopoly money and wishful thinking. Blaming Democrats for Epstein's ghost is like blaming the weatherman for anger. When you're neck deep in scandal, everything starts looking like a convenient conspiracy. When the green energy crowd starts waving oil flags, it's like the vegan chef recommending a steakhouse. It's not the dish, it's the dollar signs on the menu. Amazon delivery exposes sister's secret, reveals rent-free reality. When your spare bedroom becomes a rent-free love nest, and Amazon's the one to spill the beans, it's time to ask if you're running a hotel or a sitcom. When your defense strategy sounds like a conspiracy theory and the evidence looks like a bad episode of reality TV, it might be time to check if you're still on the air. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. While chaos reigns in the headlines, the real tragedy might be a nation that can't tell the difference between a tweet and a tragedy. CoreWeave stock surges 38% in 4 days, while AI's hype machine keeps printing confetti. Investors are riding the wave of artificial intelligence euphoria, but when the buzz fizzles, they might find themselves holding a hologram of hope instead of a golden ticket. As the charred remains of authority lie in heaps, the political game of musical chairs continues, with leaders swapping seats while the people dance on the ashes of broken promises, wondering if anyone up top will ever listen. When a tech giant behaves like it's chugged a gallon of energy drink, Wall Street analysts start looking like deer caught in lead-eyed headlights, stunned, dazed, and unsure if this is a miracle or a mirage. Analyst downgrades Apple's stock to neutral, claims it's Nvidia's and Microsoft's world now, when the tech giant that brought us the iPhone becomes a mere tenant in the Silicon Valley of the shadow of Nvidia and Microsoft. You know the apple cart's got a wobbly wheel. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Larry Ellison bypasses Elon Musk as world's richest man, showing that even in the billionaire Hunger Games, there can be only one. Precision like a blindfolded dart thrower, proving once again that evacuated is a flexible term when you control the narrative and the news cycle. Oracle predicts endless cloud growth. Broadcom stock soars on AI hype. When your stock market strategy hinges on Trump launches Chicago illegal immigration crackdown, and the Windy City braces for a political tornado. Supreme Court agrees to review Trump's tariffs, then checks if irony is a legal principle. When the highest court takes on tariffs on a president who treats trade wars like a game of Risk, it's not justice. It's a comedy of errors in judicial robes. Trump awards Charlie Kirk the Medal of Freedom and fires UK ambassador over Epstein links. It's like giving You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Household's moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, but Trump tweets louder. In a world where thoughts and prayers are cheaper than security, even the most fervent political ally can't dodge the bullets of reality, leaving us with a moment of silence that's louder than any speech. Household's moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. Then Congress resumes shouting. It's ironic how silence is the loudest thing Congress can muster when a political commentator falls, while the rest of the time they drown out reason with their own echoing sound bites. My Chemical Romance tops emo playlists. Yet happiness remains elusive. When your favorite band's biggest hit is called Dead, it's no wonder your optimism is on life support. Who knew the soundtrack of teen angst would be the real-life funeral dirge? X, the platform, formerly known as Twitter, announces rebranding as the way of the exploding dickhead. promising less coherence than a noise rock anthem. When your hard rock bravado outpaces your ability to sell records, it's time to consider if your audience is more into air guitar than actual danger. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When your investment strategy mirrors a sinking ship, it's time to either bail water faster or admit that your financial lifeboat was made of paper. When the stakes are this high, even infrastructure starts to resemble a high-stakes poker game, except the chips are entire economies. User Josh6714 shares Megadeth Symphony of Destruction, calling it a thrash metal masterpiece. In 2025, it's hard to tell if the song's about a dystopian future or just another day watching the news. When your company's growth strategy involves playing Monopoly with real power plants, but you're too shy for the stock market, it's like buying every hotel on Boardwalk and refusing to show your hand. In an era where attention spans are shorter than a TikTok dance, deciphering her poetic musings requires more patience than a DMV line. First, Rand considers selling UK unit as FCA fine looms, calling it a strategic pivot. When your business plan hinges on dodging fines, it's less about strategic pivots and more about spinning in place while the regulators watch the dance. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Trump promises South Korea fair trade deals, then jacks up tariffs like a used car salesman at a lemon lot. When your diplomatic strategy is a handshake followed by a sucker punch, it's less about learning lessons and more about learning to duck. Writing a tell-all while still in office is like airing your dirty laundry at a family reunion. Just wait for the awkward glances and passive-aggressive smiles at the next cabinet meeting. Only 0% of music lovers can name that tune, and the internet calls it progress. When your earworm is an unidentified flying ditty, it's like chasing a ghost through a musical graveyard, while everyone else swears it's just the wind. When a draw feels like victory, it's either a masterclass in spin or a desperate attempt to convince fans that mediocrity is the new black. Warner Bros. Discovery CEO demands HBO Max price hike, claims it's way underpriced. Ah, yes, because nothing says premium content like making your audience pay more to watch the same regurgitated superhero sequels and reality TV reruns. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. UK fires ambassador to US, citing Epstein ties as the cause. When your diplomatic strategy involves more scandal than diplomacy, maybe it's time to reconsider your hiring practices, or at least your friend list. Only 32% of folk songs make sense, and Utah Phillips calls it tradition. In a world where lyrics are as clear as a mud puddle, it's no wonder folk music keeps us guessing and tapping our feet in delightful confusion. In a concert hall where silence is golden, Steve Reich's minimalist masterpiece asks, how do you score a tragedy without turning it into a soundtrack for your soul's discontent? When your right now is a remix, but your future sounds like yesterday, maybe it's time to rethink the playlist and the hype. When the sound system is more cryptic than a tax code, it's a wonder any music escapes at all. But hey, at least the crowd gets to play a real-life game of guess the chorus. In the grand chess game of geopolitics, it seems the only pieces Trump moves are his clubs, proving once again that when it comes to Russia, he's more putter than Punisher. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When your band's name sounds like a landfill and your genre promises sludge, you're either redefining art or just recycling last night's feedback. Georgia detains 50 Korean workers, then blames paperwork delays. When bureaucracy becomes the villain in a global drama, you know the plot's thinner than a politician's promise, and twice as slippery. It's a classic case of the EU playing the grown-up, refusing to join Trump's trade war theater, where tariffs are his favorite toy soldiers in a sandbox of international diplomacy. Mafia Pineapple remixes Shots Fired, turns dubstep into sonic caffeine, forgets melody. In a world where bass drops harder than Wall Street investors' ethics, we find ourselves dancing on the edge of coherence, hoping for a tune to catch us. In a world where disposable pop reigns supreme, a troubadour of toilet humor dethrones the charts, proving once again that even the lowest common denominator can still hit high notes. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. YouTube links share Tom Lehrer's Who's Next, still relevant in 2025 as nuclear concerns remain. Tom Lehrer's satirical serenade on nuclear proliferation is like a musical mirror, reflecting humanity's penchant for playing hot potato with atomic bombs, proving that some tunes never go out of style, unfortunately. Spanish PM laments lack of nukes, says it can't stop Gaza war because nothing says peace like more warheads. When your Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech is just a wish list for an arms dealer, maybe it's time to rethink your foreign policy strategy. Punk bands might be the last bastion of truth, but even they can't escape the irony of selling rebellion to a generation raised on corporate-sponsored angst. Citigroup predicts mid-single-digit rise in fees, while markets remain as stable as a caffeine-fueled squirrel. In the financial circus, even a slight uptick is hailed as a victory, proving once again that banks can spin gold from a haystack of market chaos. Texas lawmaker preaches Democratic reset, runs for Senate, but he's more Bible Belt than Bernie. His candidate's campaign is a holy roller coaster, trying to baptize a party with a fire hose of faith while ignoring the separation of church and state. Israel ignites tensions with Qatar's strike, and oil prices rise like a helium balloon in a cactus field. Middle East stability is as elusive as a peace treaty, signed on a bar napkin, while oil traders play the world's most dangerous game of Jenga with global economies. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. In a nation obsessed with thoughts and prayers, perhaps the real miracle is how easily some folks confuse martyrdom with a microphone. Bob Dylan writes, "Masters of War" in 1963, but its targets still have tenure. The song's an ageless indictment, like a fine wine of outrage, aging beautifully in the cellar of ignored warnings and perpetual conflict. Only 20% of Siberian Nenettes maintain traditional rituals, and the Ministry of Culture calls it progress. When cultural preservation is as rare as a snowball in July, you know someone's got their priorities twisted. Maybe the ministry should try preserving something other than their jobs. Only 30% of listeners enjoy entire albums, and streaming platforms call it variety. Music is now a buffet of one-hit wonders, where attention spans are shorter than a TikTok dance, and the album is just the forgotten salad bar. Kendrick Lamar's latest remix drops like a time machine, reminding us that sometimes the only thing more addictive than new beats is the comforting echo of old ones. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Hail drops, anti-eulogy, I hope you stay dead. With a blast of post-hardcore fury, yet TikTok's obsessed with dance challenges. When heartfelt rage gets drowned out by lip-syncing teenagers, you know the world's priorities are more out of tune than a broken violin. YouTube's algorithm pushes Stain's Mud Shovel, ignores new artists. The nostalgia of 90s nu metal to soothe the algorithmic soul, as fresh talent drowns in a sea of rehashed riffs and digital deja vu. It's like selling a universal translator that only speaks corporate double talk. leaving Europeans wondering if Apple just can't handle a little oversight with their shiny gadgets. Lawmakers denounce violence after Charlie Kirk killing, then continue to ignore political polarization fueling it. It's like decrying the rain while refusing to fix the leaky roof. An endless cycle of outrage without addressing the storm of division they've helped create. Jonathan Marks touts sports growth, then overlooks skyrocketing ticket prices and fan disillusionment. It's like promising everyone a front row seat at the game, only to sell them binoculars and a sense of nostalgia for when sports were about, the sport. Only 30% of investors claim to understand political upheavals, and market analysts call it risk management. When traders start acting like fortune tellers, the financial world is just a crystal ball short of the circus tent. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Trump downplays Epstein letter, praises good penmanship, while strategists Hayes and Davis untangle Virginia's special election. Trump's selective memory on Epstein's correspondence is like praising a dumpster for being shiny. It's like trying to stop a flood with a leaky umbrella, while the scam artists sip pina coladas on a yacht named Justice Eluded. In an era where even music can't make up its mind, the Scissor Sisters anthem becomes the perfect soundtrack for a world that can't decide between chaos and more chaos. David Guetta's beats aim to electrify, but if this is the soundtrack of the future, I'll take silence served with a side of nostalgia. YouTube charges for nostalgia, streaming Fela Kuti's Power Show, live from Berlin, but the groove remains priceless. In a world where everything has a price tag, the true cost of soul is measured in beats per minute, not dollars. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Grenadilla CEO Rathbun defends staying private, claiming AI companies need secrecy for innovation, then touts transparency in interviews. Sweet irony of preaching privacy while broadcasting your secret sauce on a tech talk show, like a magician revealing tricks, but only after charging admission. Trump's approval drops 10%, and Pennsylvania claims it's fake news. When the emperor's new clothes start unraveling in a crucial battleground, maybe it's time to wonder if the tailor's been lying about the fit all along. Governor Hochul blames Trump for Lehrer strike threat, ignoring local mismanagement. When in doubt, blame the guy who hasn't been a New Yorker in years because accountability is just too heavy a passenger for this train to carry. Even in 2025, the music industry can't resist resurrecting legends for a quick buck, because nothing says authenticity like a digital ghost on stage. Deutsche Bank touts Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac promises freedom. When your best investment tip is betting on the escape of two mortgage giants from government shackles, it's less Wall Street wisdom and more a jailbreak fantasy. It seems the European Central Bank believes in the power of wishful thinking, hoping that inflation will behave like a well-trained puppy, despite the economic forecasts barking up a different tree. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Lenders probe interest for KKR's 1.8 billion pounds debt, call it opportunity, as billionaires juggle debt like flaming torches. The rest of us watch our wallets burn in the bonfire of their vanities. Astroverse Dimensions releases Rise of the Triad Suck. This remix, claiming it's progressive rock, but it's 32 minutes of auditory limbo. When your musical journey feels longer than a DMV line, it's less a cosmic exploration and more a celestial snooze fest. Finally, a trophy for the geniuses who thought a Roomba could double as a babysitter, or that chatbots could replace therapists without causing a digital therapy apocalypse. Barrick sells last Canadian gold mine for $1.1 billion, claims it's a savvy move and a gold rush. When selling your last golden goose is spun as genius, it's like claiming you won a marathon by hitching a ride in the broom wagon. In a world where hype and divine intervention are marketed as one, it's no surprise that profits soar while critical acclaim remains as elusive as a politician's promise. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. U.S. drug makers warn White House of chaos as Trump considers curbs on China. But prices stay sky high. It's the pharmaceutical equivalent of a toddler threatening to hold their breath until they turn blue. Just enough drama to distract from the fact that Americans are still paying through the nose for their meds. And Sync's Bye 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 hits 32 this year. Nostalgia now available on streaming. Only 32% of metal fans embrace We, the Fallen Angels. And Saki's Tolis calls it a masterpiece. When your magnum opus is met with more shrugs than headbangs, it's less a symphony of rebellion and more a solo act in an echo chamber. When your court schedule looks like a full-time job, maybe it's time to consider a career change, or at least a new hobby that doesn't involve indictments. Federal Reserve considers jumbo rate cut, calls it stability. Nothing says confidence like a financial institution dangling the threat of panic like a piñata filled with investor tears, proving once again that stability is just a marketing term for not quite chaos. Only 50% of empires last more than a century, and Teresa's head bangs to their inevitable collapse. When symphonic metal meets history clash, you get a power chord lesson on how to destroy civilization with a string section and a battle cry. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When your career path involves juggling existential dread and red noses while dodging metaphorical pies, maybe it's time to rethink the whole dying for art shtick. In a world where nostalgia is the new innovation, let's all pretend recycled VHS vibes are the cutting edge of entertainment. It's like stealing a neighbor's pie and then accusing them of being on a diet. In geopolitics, logic is the first casualty. Only 20% of Minnesotans listen to the Chugs, and their lead singer calls it a movement. When your fan base is smaller than a high school reunion, it might be time to rethink whether you're starting a revolution or just a loud echo in a soundproof room. Like burning the library to prove books are overrated, this move is a masterclass in how to gaslight an entire planet while the ice caps melt. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Semi-CEO Ajit Manocha urges chip companies to collaborate, then tariffs and AI talent shortfall hit like a double whammy. It's like telling a ship's crew to row harder while simultaneously drilling holes in the hull and asking for a symphony on deck. Imagine sipping a fine wine while everyone else is chugging boxed juice, blissfully unaware of the vintage they've overlooked. White House pressures FBI in lawsuit, then claims justice is blind. It's like hiring a referee for a game and then slipping them a 20 under the table while reminding everyone it's a fair match. Only 32% of remixes improve the original, and this techno twist on Weekend's closing night claims it's next level. It's like slapping a new coat of paint on a masterpiece and calling it your own, while the original artist shakes their head in disbelief. Folk music's trying to find its groove in a world where sailors singing about rum have more followers than a heartfelt ballad ever will. In a move as surprising as a sunrise, McDonald drops another bombshell track, ensuring his fans get their regular dose of edgy lyrics, while critics are left wondering if he's ever met a nuance he didn't ignore. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When tech bros decide to replace grit with code, you can almost hear the ghosts of rock legends rolling their eyes in unison from the great gig in the sky. Spotify removes Bob Marley tribute playlist, then promotes AI-generated reggae. When algorithms start crafting island beats, you know it's time to question if the soul of music has been sold for a digital pittance. Only 40% of U.S. college students support controversial speakers, and universities call this a dialogue. Turns out, students prefer their education without a side of hate speech. But free speech advocates insist that's just the price of admission to the circus of ideas. Snapchat lets drug dealers thrive, claims Danish study, while promising safety. When a platform for puppy filters becomes a shopping cart for narcotics, you can almost hear the sound of corporate responsibility being buried under a pile of cash. When a folk tune about mortality becomes the soundtrack to Gen Z's existential crisis, you know the algorithm's got a morbid sense of humor. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Only 20% of politicians understand hip-hop, and they call it outreach. If Black Moon's "Buck 'em Down" doesn't penetrate their thick political armor, it's no surprise they think TikTok is the cutting edge of youth culture. Only 40% of Gen Z knows folk punk, and TikTok calls it a trend. When your anthem is first world problems, it's like trying to start a revolution with a kazoo and a mild complaint. Only 20% of fans understand Death from Above 1979, and Spotify calls it a discovery. When the financial wizard's crystal ball keeps malfunctioning, it's like watching a magic show where the rabbit refuses to leave the hat. Nature magazine offers cancer epigenetics article for $1.95, but the cure remains priceless. In a world where knowledge is power, it's a little rich to charge for the hope that cancer might one day just be a bad memory. As politicians juggle diaspora dynamics like a flaming sword, they somehow manage to turn a measure of safety into a cultural tug-of-war that leaves everyone slightly singed. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Protesters disrupt Royal Opera House over performance by Putin's diva, while ticket sales soar. The irony of a full house for a performer linked to Putin suggests that sometimes the show must go on, even if the world shouldn't. Officials seek public's help to find Kirk's killer, though the alleged shooter is in custody, according to Trump. It's like being invited to a party, but the bouncer's stuck in a loop, asking if you brought your time machine from 1999. Utah authorities released CCTV, then suspecting Kirk shooting channels Ninja Chic with Converse. When your getaway plan involves leaping from a rooftop in high tops, it's either a desperate escape or an audition for the world's grimmest parkour team. Confessing to your dad about a murder is the ultimate wait till your father gets home moment, except this time the grounding involves handcuffs and a life sentence. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. UK economy flatlines in July, calls it a growth strategy. Rachel Reeves might need to swap her economic toolkit for a defibrillator, as the GDP's pulse is about as lively as a British summer barbecue under a downpour. Blackpool Hospital ignored a man for 22 hours, then blamed the clock for his suicide. When healthcare turns into a waiting game of Russian roulette, it's clear that human life is just another number to be ticked off a list. While Venus remains a hellscape of acid and pressure, Earth gets a taste of vintage space junk, reminding us that sometimes the past comes back just to say surprise. The cosmos whispers secrets like a shy teenager, leaving us to marvel at faint echoes, while the universe itself carries on with its silent, indifferent symphony. When the nation's top investigator can't tell a suspect from a subject, it's like watching a detective movie where the sleuth keeps misplacing their magnifying glass. Trump claims family turned in Kirk, shooting suspect, then says suspect is in custody. When the most powerful man in America moonlights as a crime-solving uncle, you can't help but wonder if we're all just extras in his latest reality show. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When the choice is between a dignified exit and a bankrupt hospice, the moral high ground starts to look like a very expensive hill to die on. When cybercriminals use your AI to spread malware, like it's a Black Friday sale, perhaps it's time to redefine cutting edge before the edge cuts you. Slate's parenting column suggests therapy, but your mother opts for tequila and character assassination, while grandma spins tales under the influence. Your son gets a front row seat to the family drama, learning that sometimes the only thing thicker than blood is a good cocktail. In the grand game of global politics, Gaza's residents find themselves pawns on a board where humanitarian solutions resemble dystopian training camps for the world's most resilient survivors. Faith must have taken a wrong turn at the salad bar, because this oily sacraments left the monument, looking like a Greek tragedy written by a sous chef. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When the law of the land starts sounding like a dystopian novel, it's hard to tell if we're protecting borders or just erasing humanity. U.S. officials vow to punish foreigners, mocking Charlie Kirk's death, then claim it's about glorifying violence. When even death becomes a political playground, you know the circus has found its new ringmaster, and they're ready to deport anyone who dares laugh at the wrong punchline. Polish and NATO forces scramble to shoot down Russian drones, then call it an airspace misunderstanding. When your neighbor's special delivery involves uninvited drones, you start wondering if the Iron Curtain is making a comeback tour with a new high-tech twist. Charles Darwin University study claims AI reshapes ethics, then admits it's just as lost as the rest of us. It's like handing the wheel to a blindfolded driver and expecting a scenic route. I might redefine our world, but it's still fumbling with the map of morality. When political parties implode like a reality TV show, you know they're running on drama instead of policy. Turns out leadership's just another episode of Survivor. Lady Gaga extends Mayhem Ball Tour to 2026, because who needs rest when you can have relentless chaos instead? Imagine a world where Lady Gaga's tour schedule has more stamina than your average New Year's resolution, because nothing screams mayhem like February through April in North America. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. With the FBI's blurry photos, it's like playing a national game of Where's Waldo? Except the stakes are a bit higher than finding a striped shirt in a crowd. In a plot twist no one saw coming, the promise of glittery awards and pop star drama lured folks back to their screens, only to be drowned in a tidal wave of ads and product placements. Only 50% of overworked employees say no to extra tasks, and bosses call it initiative. Congratulations, you've officially become the office doormat, where your boss wipes her shoes while you smile and nod, wondering if team player is just corporate for sucker. While the suspect's parkour skills impress, the authorities' ability to solve high-profile cases without turning them into reality TV remains as elusive as a unicorn in a suit. Trump's vocabulary flubs are like an infomercial for the English language, reminding us that words still matter, even when they come from a gilded teleprompter. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. As the FBI chases shadows through the Utah woods, one can't help but wonder if the gun-toting suspect is as elusive as the promises made by the folks Charlie Kirk once rallied for. In a stunning act of historical revisionism, the award committee seems to have confused military valor with a reality TV redemption arc, leaving us all wondering if they're handing out medals for fiction now. When your presidential library has more tumbleweeds than donors, it's less a monument to legacy and more a cautionary tale about overstaying your welcome. Watching Carol is like sipping vintage wine while sitting on a whoopee cushion. Elegant on the surface, but Hollywood's hot air is always ready to deflate the moment. When the daily tragedy of gun violence becomes a footnote in your inbox, it's clear America needs more than thoughts, prayers, and newsletters. U.S. immigration detains over 450 South Koreans, then calls it border protection. When your electric car's ethics are powered by deportation, it's safe to say the future is running on a full tank of irony and a flat tire of humanity. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When the highest court in the land decides that more boots on the ground in LA is a solution, it's like trying to cure a headache with a sledgehammer. Messy, loud, and guaranteed to leave a mark. While scientists unravel the mysteries of battery chemistry, your smartphone continues its existential crisis, shutting down just when you need it most. Israel kills over 50 in Gaza, labels it self-defense, when the collateral damage includes children seeking aid. It's high time we question the morality of calling this anything but a tragedy, dressed in the garb of statecraft. When your legacy is a pile of policy blunders, desperately patching holes on the way out won't convince anyone you're a masterful captain steering the ship to safety. Charlie's alleged assassin donated to Trump, proving the old adage, politics makes strange bedfellows and even stranger headlines. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. UK Prime Minister fires ambassador, then claims friendship with Epstein was just networking. When your diplomatic career crashes harder than a royal on a ski slope, perhaps it's time to rethink your choice of friends or face the sticky web of networking gone wrong. In a world where a phone case costs more than dinner for two, the real protection you need is from the marketing wizards who convinced us that plastic and silicone are the new luxury. Mark David Chapman, now 70, remains in prison, proving that while time marches on, some consequences are stuck on repeat like a bad Beatles cover band. Trump declares Charlie Kirk dead, then retracts. In a plot twist worthy of a soap opera, Trump's premature eulogy turns out to be as reliable as a campaign promise, leaving us to wonder if he's running a news network or just a reality show. Albanian PM replaces mayor, 7 months post-arrest. When your political strategy involves musical chairs with corrupt officials, it's less about governance and more about finding the right scapegoat to keep the dance going. Spotify blocks Tony Million's latest track, Blames Your Browser. In a world where algorithms decide your playlist, the only thing more outdated than your browser is the idea that music needs a gatekeeper. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. 95% of U.S. beers contain toxic forever chemicals, and breweries call it a unique flavor profile. When your IPA comes with a side of industrial runoff, it's a sobering reminder that even your happy hour is now a chemistry experiment gone wrong. It's a legal plot twist worthy of a soap opera. Finally, equality gets a cameo role in the marriage name game, proving that sometimes the patriarchy does need a rewrite. When home of the brave becomes land of the bureaucratic limbo, it's like waiting for a bus that's never coming, while the driver takes a siesta on your future. Cheater admits fault, still can't resist repeating history, then wonders why trust is as elusive as a unicorn in a shopping mall. It's like trying to repair a shattered vase with duct tape, only to be surprised when it leaks all over the carpet. It's like watching a magic show where all the rabbits vanish, but the hat's still empty and the audience just paid double. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Only 25% of secret baby plans involve asking siblings for financial support, and Harper calls it a family bonding moment. When your sister's idea of a secret baby includes a request for a down payment on diapers, it's less about family planning and more about family funding. London police arrest hundreds of Palestine Action protesters, then plan tea and biscuits. While they promise to rein in rogue AIs, companies are really just playing whack-a-mole with digital gremlins, leaving us to wonder if they're training future overlords or just prepping for the next tech horror flick. As the spotlight shifts to the courtroom, expect a melodrama where justice is the understudy and political theater takes center stage with more twists than a reality TV plot. Trump administration juggles Putin and Netanyahu, while diplomacy resembles a circus act with no safety net. Qatar's condemnation of Israel as a flagrant violation adds a layer of irony, as Trump's foreign policy seems more like a game of geopolitical twister, with each move leaving him tangled in contradictions. Camera cancels Britain's biggest beer festival, citing budget shortfalls. Apparently, the only thing spilling over the Great British Beer Festival is the irony of a country that can't afford its own pint-sized traditions while serving up economic excuses like yesterday's flat ale. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. It's like blaming the fork for a bad meal. An exercise in shifting responsibility that leaves users wondering if the real issue is a tech company that can't keep its own house in order. For the price of a small grocery haul, you too can drape yourself in ethically sourced sheep fuzz while wondering if the threads possess magical properties that justify their cost. UK government plans to rip up nuclear rules, ensuring safety is as stable as a Jenga tower in an earthquake. When community groups are your last line of defense against radioactive roulette, you know the government's playing a game of how low can we go with public safety. Only 30% of couples discuss parenting styles before kids. Graham's chilling response makes you wonder about the other 70%. When emergency rooms become holding pens for vulnerable kids, it's like sending a canary into a coal mine and calling it therapy. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Only 42% of Americans believe political violence is a real threat, and yet strawberries are cheaper in winter, when the cost of fresh produce seems more pressing than democracy's slow roast over open flames. You know the only thing ripening is our collective denial. It's almost poetic, really, the way academia and addiction dance around each other like a tragic love story, where one partner's enlightenment is the other's relapse into denial. It's as if the judge decided to play the wild card in the democracy death match, while Bolsonaro's coup dreams hang in the balance like a bad soap opera plot twist. South African campaigners serve healthy meals to kids, while fast food giants supersize their profits. It's a David and Goliath battle, but instead of a sling, they're armed with kale and quinoa against a tidal wave of sugar and salt. When a social media platform starts playing therapist, you know we've reached the point where algorithms decide who deserves a second chance at sobriety. Adobe Commerce Fall CVE 2025-54236 lets hackers take over customer accounts, and Adobe calls it a minor inconvenience. When your online shopping cart becomes a hacker's playground. Minor inconvenience is corporate speak for, we hope you enjoy the chaos while it lasts. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. U.S. trade policy adds layers of bureaucracy, creating chaos for Canadian businesses despite when your neighbor's trade policy is a Kafkaesque nightmare, even the most compliant companies find themselves lost in a maze of red tape, all while paying the toll of American unpredictability. When originality is replaced by recycled drivel, even the most desperate SEO strategist has to wonder if they're just building castles made of sand. Only 24% of Americans find closure in 9/11 investigations, and the government calls it healing. The memory of tragedy lingers like smoke, while families wrestle with justice served cold, a dish that never quite satisfies the hunger for truth. NASA claims Mars rock hints life, and we still can't get Wi-Fi in the subway, while scientists dream of ancient Martians sipping cosmic lattes. Earthlings are stuck, wondering if we're the only ones in the universe with a penchant for overanalyzing peculiar pebbles. Spotify tells users to update browsers, but the music industry still spins vinyl as the future. Peddling digital upgrades while vinyl sales soar is like selling jetpacks to marathon runners. Both miss the point of the journey entirely. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When never give up becomes a mantra for burnout, maybe it's time to redefine success before your life turns into a motivational poster gone rogue. Charlie Kirk shot during speech, and conspiracy theories multiply faster than thoughts and prayers. In a nation where misinformation spreads like wildfire, it's hard to tell if the real tragedy is the loss of life or the flurry of fake news that follows. Dan Brown releases new book, calls it a revelation, but only conspiracy theorists are buying. When your literary legacy is a treasure map of half-truths and secret societies, it's no surprise when your fan base starts believing the earth is flat. While her presence remains as elusive as Bigfoot on a diet, Melania's digital doppelganger might finally give us the first lady who actually shows up. Police seek shooter in Charlie Kirk case, despite CCTV footage. In a nation where guns are easier to find than healthcare, it's both poetic and tragic that the manhunt relies on the public's eyes when the real problem is in everyone's hands. Scientists claim rogue wave mystery solved, yet predictability remains elusive. Just when you think you've understood the ocean's temper tantrums, it reminds you it's still got a few tricks up its watery sleeve. Good luck scheduling your beach vacation. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Mexican authorities investigate cartel threats against Junior H, yet his concerts sell out faster than tacos on a Sunday morning. It's a wild world where narco corridos become reality TV, and the boundary between life and art blurs like a tequila-fueled fever dream. It's like being forced to swap your gourmet meal for a soggy fast food burger and being told it's a Michelin star experience. Welcome home. Here's a side of applause and protest, because nothing says we missed you like a nation grappling with its own reflection in the cracked mirror of global politics. The Met dresses up its walls with another high society relic, as if the world needs more proof that fashion's glass ceiling is made of diamond-encrusted lace. President Trump announces Charlie Kirk's death at Utah event, calls him legendary. In a world where legendary is tossed around like confetti at a parade, let's not forget the real tragedy. A life cut short while the political circus rolls on, louder and more oblivious than ever. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. In the relentless pursuit of good vibes, it's reassuring to know that musical platitudes still sell like hotcakes at a gluten-free convention. U.S. ends Europe disinfo pacts, citing strategic autonomy, because nothing screams united front like ditching your allies to fight misinformation alone, while Russia, China, and Iran exchange high fives in the digital shadows. When your morning routine costs more than your monthly rent, you're not brewing coffee. You're cultivating a high-end hobby that's as sustainable as a caffeine-fueled daydream. In the political funhouse, where irony is the main attraction, Kirk's influence was like a roller coaster that derailed right at the peak, leaving us all to wonder if the ride was worth the ticket. Trump tariff refund bill may hit $1 trillion, and the Supreme Court is the last stop on this fiscal Ferris wheel. When your financial strategy hinges on tariffs now deemed illegal, it's like betting your life savings on a horse that's already retired. Misdroge hackers exploit DNS and ICMP, call it stealthy while it's just a digital game of hide and seek, when your network's playing host to invisible intruders using internet smoke signals. It's time to admit that the only thing more elusive than their code is accountability. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Apparently, Whopper password wasn't just a joke, it was an actual security measure, proving once again that the only thing more processed than their nuggets is their cybersecurity strategy. It's like watching two drunks at a party, one deciding to sober up just as the other cracks open another bottle, while everyone else wonders who will be the first to fall off their economic stool. When your humanitarian gesture comes with a side of forced displacement, it's like offering a Band-Aid after you've set the house on fire, charity with a twist of coercion. It's like handing out a map to buried treasure where X marks the spot, but the shovel is made of wet noodles. When your crime-fighting plan looks more like a military parade, maybe it's not safety you're after, but a throne made of fear and bravado. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. NATO claims to protect millions, yet a single drone sends ministers scrambling. When your defense strategy can be undone by a flying toaster with a vendetta, maybe it's time to rethink who's really in control of the skies. Hollywood stars pledge boycott of Israeli film, then expect Oscars to still matter. When actors flex moral muscles over genocide, but still aim for golden statues, it's like wearing a designer shirt to a protest. Fashionable, but you're still hoping for a spotlight. When the highest court in the land drops a ruling like a mysterious fortune cookie with no fortune inside, the only thing they're protecting is the art of ambiguity. Only 40% of Australians believe Abbott's praise for a dumped front bencher, but he calls it a big loss. If Abbott's idea of a big loss is a senator who can't stop playing the blame game, maybe it's time to redefine what big and loss actually mean in Australian politics. UK. Doctor endorses mosquito research center bitten by irony. One man's itchy nightmare becomes a scientific opportunity, proving once again that personal pain often sways more minds than public health statistics ever could. When the price of bread competes with the moral cost of a viral video, we realize inflation isn't the only thing out of control. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When your business relies on foreign floors to stay afloat, it's a hard lesson in economic gravity. What goes up in tariffs must come down in sales. Looks like the suspect's auditioning for the role of Houdini, while the FBI is left holding the gun and wondering where the magic went. Keir Starmer resists sacking Mandelson after Epstein deal leaks, because who needs clean hands in politics? It's like hiring a fox to guard the hen house and then being shocked when the feathers fly. NSW coalition embroiled in koala wars declares environmental progress while species faces extinction. The koalas are caught in a political custody battle with politicians more interested in scoring points than saving habitats, proving yet again that in the wild world of politics, the cutest creatures often get the rawest deal. SoundCloud demands new browsers to stream RxSE, then blend your network. Apparently, the real breakcore experience starts with a digital scavenger hunt for compatibility, turning your quest for music into a tech troubleshooting session. Who knew listening to beats was a high-stakes browser Olympics? You're listening to doomscroll.fm. AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Slate advises parents to tell kids about divorce with honesty, then stumble over the right words, because nothing says we're mature adults like sugarcoating a life-altering event while expecting children to understand the fine print of emotional upheaval. Maybe next they'll suggest using finger puppets to explain alimony. Prime Minister promises action on Islamophobia, but Envoy says attacks are rising. Nothing says we're on it like a special envoy playing watchdog while hate crimes rise like a bad souffle, leaving the government scrambling for a recipe that doesn't involve empty promises and political theater. In a world where everyone has a camera in their pocket, it's astonishing how a person of interest can remain as elusive as a politician's promise. Flinders University warns Ozempic risks unborn babies, still prescribed widely. When shedding pounds turns into shedding responsibility, it seems the fine print on side effects is as invisible as the concern for future generations. In a political landscape where the glass ceiling is made of reinforced steel, Thornberry's exit is a reminder that even brilliant women need more than privilege to break through. Oracle stock jumps 36%, claims cloud demand is the new gold rush. Apparently, the secret to skyrocketing stock value is to sprinkle a little cloud magic dust, leaving analysts to wonder if Oracle's next trick is turning lead into Bitcoin. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. In the game of international hot net, the Tunisian government is pointing fingers at the boat's own innards, while organizers insist the skies rain down mechanical mischief. The Public Service Alliance's marketplaces, like giving a raincoat to someone in a hurricane, useful, but they're still going to get drenched in the deluge of cybersecurity threats. Mike Johnson declared Trump an anti-Epstein informant, then backpedaled faster than a circus unicyclist, When the House Speaker's imagination runs wild, we get a political thriller where the hero is more myth than man, leaving us wondering if reality is just a subplot. When pension lines become firing lines, it's clear that the only thing Moscow's aiming to retire is any illusion of peace. Minnesota man pleads not guilty to 6 counts in lawmaker shooting case, claiming innocence despite evidence. When your best defense is, "I didn't do it," while standing knee-deep in fingerprints and bullet casings, you might need a new strategy or a time machine. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. Trump administration halts funding for 8 states' programs, aiding students with hearing and vision loss, claiming diversity concerns. When your diplomacy includes detaining allies, workers, and secret Greenland escapades, it's less about playing chess and more about playing Risk with real lives. It's like handing the keys of the asylum to the inmates, with Cruz playing the role of a clueless zookeeper who thinks the tigers will behave. America urged to bet on Pakistan forgets the odds, with geopolitical roulette spinning faster than a caffeine-fueled hamster wheel. Betting on Pakistan might just be the boldest gamble since someone decided pineapple belonged on pizza. Victorian treaty bill passes. Opioids masquerade as cocaine. Australia celebrates a historic step toward justice, while simultaneously issuing health warnings about drugs playing dress-up, proving the only thing more unpredictable than politics is what's lurking in your party's favors. When your 15 minutes of fame involves faking your own demise, it's less a commentary on culture and more a desperate plea for relevance in the world's saddest reality show. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity melts like sugar. Proof nothing is true, reality is shattered desire. When your foreign policy is outsourcing humanity like a bad Amazon return, maybe it's time to rethink who's really in control of the global customer service line. When your car insurance bill looks more like a ransom note, you have to wonder if your finances are being protected or just held hostage by a legal mafia in a slick suit. This has been doomscroll.fm, fading into irrelevance. This broadcast was 100% AI generated. No humans were abused in this production. Loosely based on public news, not journalism, not truth. Fictional satire, resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. If you believe any of this is real, consider enrolling in a course on mythical creatures. Hear more at doomscroll.fm or click like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.